All right, 1 second.
Or rock and legislate. I don't know what the translation and how that. Rock and vote? No.
All right, 1 second.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
And we're good to go.
All right, we're good.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we will now call to order for the Legislation and Rules Committee for Tuesday, January 9th, 2024. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Alderman Narayan. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Here.
Alderwoman Velasquez.
Here.
Chair Valmer. President Green.
Present.
Alderman Narayan. Chair Valmer. We have 3 present. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I will be acting as chair for this meeting, and I will now entertain a motion for the approval of minutes for the meeting on Tuesday, November 28th, 2023.
I move that we approve the minutes from November 8th, 2023. Second.
The move has been seconded, Madam Clerk.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first. I think it was frozen. Who was?
Clark Hubbard.
Alderman Narayan. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Chair Velasquez.
Aye.
President Green.
Aye.
We have 3 aye votes.
Thank you, and by your vote, we've approved the minutes. Now on to board bills for review. Board bills for review?
We have none.
Okay. Resolutions for review.
We have resolution number 137, introduced by Alderman Rasheen Aldrich. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of Aldermen of the City of St. Louis that we pause in our deliberations to call upon the President of the United States to work towards a ceasefire.
Yes, can you go ahead and read the resolution? No, Alderman.
I have to adopt the committee sub. I was waiting to be recognized to have the floor.
You are recognized to have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I move to adopt the committee substitute for Resolution 137.
So moved.
Second.
Previous row.
Alderman, okay.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you read the committee substitute for Resolution 137?
Resolution number 137, committee substitute, calling on the president to work towards a ceasefire in Gaza. Whereas all human life is precious and the targeting of civilians, no matter their faith or ethnicity, is a violation of international humanitarian law. And whereas the temporary truce that came to an end on Friday, December 1st, demonstrated that a negotiated ceasefire is the only way to release all hostages, deliver aid, stop bombing, and save lives. And whereas hundreds of thousands of lives are at imminent risk if a ceasefire is not achieved and humanitarian aid is not delivered without delay, and whereas the federal government holds immense diplomatic power to save Israeli and Palestinian lives and should utilize that power to that effect, and whereas we unequivocally condemn the brutal attacks by Hamas on Israel on October 7th, we also condemn the response of Israel that led to the deaths of civilians, journalists, and healthcare workers. And And whereas we deeply regret that military operations have resumed in Gaza, and we reiterate that all people, Israelis, Palestinian, and all others are entitled to life lived in safety and free from violence. And whereas the city of St. Louis condemns the recent rise of anti-Semitism, anti-Palestinian racism, Islamophobia, racism, homophobia, and xenophobia fueled attacks, in our city and across the nation, including the doxing of elected officials, students, professors, journalists, and others speaking truth to power. And whereas constituents who reside in the city of St. Louis has made very clear that they want to see an end to this violence and want the U.S. to immediately demand a bilateral ceasefire. And whereas the ongoing conflict in Israeli and Gaza has led to significant loss of life, immense humanitarian crises, and continued suffering for innocent civilians, including those with ties to St. Louis, and whereas Gaza is in a dire humanitarian crisis that it's getting worse with each passing day, with the only remaining hospitals running out of fuel and medical supplies, and millions of Palestinians facing displacement, homelessness, and starvation. And whereas international organizations like Amnesty International, the United Nations, the World Health Organization, the International Rescue Committee, and many others have made a call for a ceasefire in order to prevent the further loss of life of civilians and to be in accordance with international humanitarian law. And whereas we stand in urging the United States to act decisively by calling for an immediate bilateral ceasefire, echoing the strong and urgent plea of our community for peace. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the city of St. Louis supports members of Congress and the Biden administration to demand an immediate bilateral ceasefire, release of all hostages, and the unrestricted entry of humanitarian assistance into Gaza, and the restoration of food, water, electricity, and medical supplies, respect for international law, and calls for a resolution that protects the security of all innocent civilians. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be sent to the U.S. Senator Josh Hawley, U.S. Senator Eric Schmidt, U.S. President Joe Biden, and U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris, urging them to take immediate action to use their position and influence to end violence. Introduced this 20th day of October 2023 by the Honorable Rasheen Aldrich, Alderman 14th Ward. Co-sponsors the Honorable Megan Green, President, Board of Aldermen, the Honorable Shane Cohn, Alderman 3rd Ward, the Honorable Alicia Sanye, Alderman 7th Ward, adopted this 20th day of October 2023 as attested by.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, for reading the resolution, and thank you again to the members of the committee for allowing me to present this resolution in front of this committee. This resolution was originally filed back in October 20th, and over the winter break, I wanted to take time to follow the process. A lot of members at our board felt like this needed to go through committee so it can be vetted properly. During that time and during that break, I wanted to do my due diligence, so I changed a lot of the language and brought a committee sub to try to be a lot more sensitive. As we currently know, the war that's happening right now is tearing a lot of people apart, especially not just overseas, but even back home. We know our city is very diverse. We have a large population of Palestinian residents as well as Jewish community members. So I didn't want to rush this and wanted to make sure that from the Board of Aldermen, we send a message to both our Jewish community as well as our Palestinian residents to let them know that we do care about them. We want peace as well. The situations that's been going on in the Middle East have just been extremely horrible. And with trying to be sensitive, I know over the last few weeks, I've worked with a lot of Palestinian advocates to make sure I get not just the language right, but also the details. This is a nuanced situation, not just for me, but with talking with them as well for their community, as well as talking with the Jewish community who has also help craft some language in this resolution for them as well. I want to give a huge thank you to, as well as Alderwoman Danielle Velasquez, who is a help with working on this resolution, Alderwoman Ann Schweitzer, who also was a help, as well as President Megan Green, again, to try to be as intentional as possible with not trying to either miss anything, not trying to make sure that we have wordage in this resolution that can do more harm than actual good. While the city of St. Louis may not have the power to send funds and aids like Congress can, I know this situation has been happening, has really rocked our city. We've seen multiple protests from both sides in the city of St. Louis and in the St. Louis region. And as a board of aldermen, I think it's extremely important to let, like I said, our Palestinian community and our Jewish community know that not only do we see them, we hear them, we feel their pain, and from the board of aldermen, that we want to take on the responsibility and also ask for a ceasefire. This has been an ask that has come from many members of Congress. Many different municipalities across the U.S. have asked for a ceasefire. Many organizations on both sides with proper wording that have asked for a bilateral ceasefire. And I just wanted to, again, thank especially my Palestinian advocates as well as the Jewish community for helping me during this process to make sure we get the right wording to ask for a ceasefire to bring peace to both sides. I know we have a lot of people in the attendees section, so I won't talk as long. And with that, Madam Chair, I will close for the moment.
Thank you, Alderman Aldrich. Before we move to public testimony, I just want to ask the committee members if they have any questions. President Green, any questions for Alderman Aldrich? Questions from the committee members? Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, any questions for Alderman Aldrich?
Thank you so much, Madam Vice Chair. I don't have any questions at this time. I would like to offer my commitment to Alderman Aldrich for the work that I know I've not just heard about, I've witnessed him do on communicating. Again, like he stated, on both sides, it is especially at a time now with everything he's personally going through. And I think that we need to acknowledge and hold space for that as well. So thank you, Alderman Aldrich. I don't have any questions right now. I'm absolutely here to listen to the testimony and then be ready to vote on this in the end.
Great. President Green, any questions before we move to public testimony?
No questions. Just again, want to just uplift and appreciate Alderman Aldridge for the amount of work he's done for the break to, I think, really be inclusive of a variety of voices and perspectives. And I'm, more than anything, just really interested in hearing from community today. I know our inboxes and our phones have been blowing up asking for support for the ceasefire resolution. And so I'm really happy that we can give a platform today to community members to say what they need to say on this issue. So thank you.
Great, thank you. So with that, we're going to now take public comment on Resolution 137. I know for the public, we got started a little bit late. So we're going to end this meeting by 6 p.m., which means that we're going to take a vote by 5:55 p.m. I know that, so hopefully we can get everybody's comments in. Each person will have the opportunity to speak for 2 minutes and address the committee, just sort of public housekeeping notes. As I think you heard from my colleagues that the committee's here to listen to your testimony. You're addressing remarks to us. So even if you ask questions, just how protocol goes, we won't dialogue between, we'll address any questions if that happens after public committee or after public testimony. And then we'll alternate testimony between folks that are for or against the resolution. That's just how it works. So please make sure to state your position so the clerk knows the order in which to call. And thank you all for being here. I'll echo President Green and saying I know that folks have been engaged in wanting to hear from the board on this topic, and that's what we're here to do today. So with that, I will hand it over to Madam Clerk, and we'll go from there.
Okay, everyone who is speaking, can I please see your faces? I will have to swear you in.
Okay.
If you could please raise your right hand. Do you affirm that the testimony that you are about to give in this cause is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
When you get ready to give your testimony, please introduce yourself, your first and your last name.
Okay.
We will start off. I'm going to start with who I see first. So I'm going to start with
Okay.
Anna Ginsberg.
Yes, that is correct. Thank you to the committee and Rasheen Aldridge. I am sending love and healing for your mom. My name is Anna Ginsberg. I live in the 4th Ward. I am Jewish. I am a CRC member, and I come from at that Central Reform congregation. I come from an ardent Zionist family. The level of death and destruction that Israel has rained down on Gaza is unbelievable, almost unfathomable. 2% of the population dead, 90% of the homes destroyed. Imagine if that was St. Louis. Our tax dollars are paying for this. So support this resolution. Most people in this country support a ceasefire. Most people in the world, most countries in the world support a ceasefire. This is an easy thing to do, and I hope the committee will vote for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I see.
Just one note before you call the next person. Ms. Ginsburg, you did it, but if you could state your ward, what ward you're in as well, that's helpful for all of us.
She said she was in a 4th Ward. Okay. Thank you so much. I see Mr. Michael Berg.
Yes, thank you. My name is Michael Berg. I live in the 4th Ward, formerly 24th Ward in Dogtown. I am a member of the Jewish community, and I support this resolution. There's a genocide happening right now. Israel is doing the genocide with American arms and American diplomatic support, led by our President Joe Biden. This is wrong, and it's a continuation of 75 years of Israel's ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people from their land and their homes. It's terrible what's happening in Gaza. In the middle of a genocide, we have to say something and do something to stop it. As a child, as a Jewish child, I was raised and continually taught never again. And never again should be never again for anybody. And we are beginning again in Gaza in the name of the Jewish people and with American arms. And I am happy that the St. Louis Board of Aldermen is responding correctly and putting out this message to say, we cannot continue. There needs to be a ceasefire. This has to stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Miss Anila. Anila, I need your last name, please, and your ward.
Yes, Anella Barbanel.
Could you spell that for me?
Sure. Barbanell.
And your ward?
I'm in Beaver Mill. Tom, Alderman Tom. I'm not sure which ward that is.
Oldenburg, 2nd Ward.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you, everyone, especially the alderman and president and everyone here for doing this. I am a genocide survivor. I'm Bosnian Muslim. My last name is not. It's Jewish. My soon-to-be ex-husband is Jewish and Christian. There's PTSD in the Bosnian community. I am here as a mother, as a genocide survivor, as I support ceasefire and have been walking, talking, protesting, boycotting, calling since the beginning of October. People, Muslim and Jewish people don't hate each other. What's being pushed onto people in Gaza and Palestine and people that are being used to do it is wrong. I fully believe that if people would be left to themselves, there would be peace. And if those that have bad intentions would stop giving weapons, as someone who survived 18 months of airstrikes in Croatia as a child, my heart breaks for every child that shakes right now. I was also hungry. I didn't have water. Our electricity and water were controlled. And it's not okay. It's really not okay. But everything that these kids are feeling right now, we've experienced. There's a large Bosnian community that is, again, having PTSD right now. We don't have appetite because we know what it's like. And when our government came and asked for help, we were given an embargo. So we couldn't even get any sort of help. On top of it, we were prevented from helping ourselves. I would really like you to pass this and help save lives. A child is killed every 10 minutes. I wish peace to everybody, and I feel that everyone deserves that, regardless of the color of their skin or their religion.
Thank you. We have next Miss Sandra Tamari. I hope I pronounced it correctly. I'm not sure.
Thank you, Sandra Tamari. Thank you. I'm a Palestinian American who has called St. Louis home for over 20 years, formerly of Ward 7. I still attend church in Ward 8. I'm asking you to support this plea for a ceasefire. It's overwhelmingly supported by St. Louis residents. Many of us that are here today are grieving for our Palestinian friends and family who have been murdered during this genocide. And we're terrified for our family and friends who are continuing to struggle to survive in Gaza. I want to tell you about my friend Intima Abuhelu, who is a Palestinian student studying here at St. Louis University. I met Intima when she first came from Gaza in the fall of 2022 to begin her studies in global health. She's a brilliant, brilliant student. She came here to serve the Palestinian people, to improve her already amazing academic record. She's a dentist, and she wanted to learn more about how to impact the living conditions of people in Gaza, her family, her community. And on January 2nd this year, I woke up to a devastating WhatsApp message from Intima. She wrote, "My grandmother, 2 brothers with their wives and kids, and 4 of my uncles with their wives and kids were killed today. Her family was sheltering in tents in the cold in the south of Gaza, the area that Israel told Palestinians was the safe zone. This is just one example of how this is impacting the city of St. Louis. I have friends and family who write me daily, begging me for news of a ceasefire. Their families in Gaza are desperate for hope, a small glimmer of hope. And with this vote, you can offer them some light. I want to just say that this institution has made amazing choices in the past and has impacted international issues. In the 1980s, this institution passed a historic resolution introduced by the Honorable Terry Kennedy, denouncing South African apartheid. Cities across the country joined with St. Louis in demanding an end to the apartheid regime in South Africa and contributed to the international movement that brought an end to that unjust system. We have to have courage today to say that saving lives is not controversial, that ending hostilities is not controversial, and that St. Louis can be on the right side of history, and we are asking you to do everything you can to save lives. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Up next, we have Mia Salomon.
Before Ms. Solomon speaks, just one quick thing, Clerk Heggs. I think maybe some new folks have joined and raised their hands, so when the appropriate time is just make sure what we include them.
Yeah. Once I get the ones that I swore in already, then I'll get the rest of them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Mia Salamoni. I'm a constituent of the 6th Ward. I'm an American Jew, an active participant in the Matovu community, which is a Jewish space in the 7th Ward. And I'm a human who's just deeply disturbed by the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. And I ask that you support Resolution 137 for a permanent ceasefire. I mourn for the more than 23,000 lives lost already, so many of them children. There's no military solution, and more death cannot end this conflict. No peace can be created from the devastating massacre of civilians. We must work towards a political solution that prioritizes safety and justice for all, and a ceasefire is a critical first step. Cori Bush, as we know, has led the call in Congress for a ceasefire, and now over 60 members have joined her, and many other cities have passed these resolutions. So I urge you to join the chorus of leaders on the right side of history. Thank you.
Thank you. We have now Miss Jada. Jada, I will need your last name and your ward. Thank you.
Hey, yeah, my last name is Peten, P-E-T-E-N, and I live in Ward 8. But yeah, I'm demanding that the St. Louis Board of Aldermen not only support this resolution for a ceasefire, but also to call for an explicit end to the occupation of Palestine, point blank, period. I think we have to be very clear about like our obligation in St. Louis and the US to name how like state violence affects us here in St. Louis and how that connects to the state violence that Palestinians are facing as a direct result of Israel that is funded directly by our taxpayer dollars. As we've seen with like murders of Mike Brown, Isaiah Hammock, Kiki Haring, all of whom were murdered by by police officers, either in the county or in St. Louis City. This is similar to the state violence that Palestinians are facing as a result of a genocidal occupying force on their land. And this is very localized. Like we know St. Louis has a lot of Palestinian folks as a result of like their displacement and being forced off of their lands. And so I think it's very clear that like we should call not only just for a ceasefire, but also name the ways in which state violence is affecting, how state violence affects Black folks here in St. Louis and how that's affecting Palestinians as well. I think I also want to lift up the political prisoner ask that was in a previous version of this bill, but bringing that back to the forefront. Like we need to demand that Palestinian political prisoners are released, like every single Palestinian political prisoner. And I think we also need to name that we should not condemn Palestinian resistance, in which one of the whereas clauses seeks to condemn Palestinian resistance. And I think that we should be clear that like oppressed and colonized folks across the world have the right to exist and have the right to resist in the ways that they see fit to get all colonizing forces off of their back. And we should be in support of that, especially being in St. Louis, where we're used to tussling with our own forces, especially the STL police force. So yeah, I would just like to call on y'all to not just support the ceasefire resolution, but to even go further in calling out the occupation of Palestine.
Thank you. Okay, I see we have, if everyone who's going to give a testimony, could I please see your faces, please? I have a few more that I'm pushing over, but for some reason they're not going. One moment. Okay. So everyone who's going to give a testimony, could you please raise your right hand? Do you affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this cause is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I can't hear you.
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to start with Allah Abdelaziz. I'm sorry if I butchered your name.
It's okay.
If you could state your ward, your first and your last name and your ward.
My name is Hala Abdelaziz, and I live in the Tower Grove South neighborhood in the 6th Ward in St. Louis City.
Go ahead and give your testimony.
Okay. I'm a Palestinian American architect, and I grew up between St. Louis and the West Bank in Palestine. I am pretty frustrated that in 2024, I still find myself pleading with my elected officials to side with humanity and endorse a ceasefire. Israel's killing of thousands of Palestinian men, women, and children is wrong. Israel's targeted killing of Palestinian doctors is wrong. Israel's targeted killing of Palestinian journalists is wrong. Innocent Palestinian civilians deserve life. And the only moral vote is a vote to support the ceasefire. And calling for a ceasefire is not revolutionary. It's not controversial. It is the bare minimum. As an architect, I have an obligation to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public, and the intentional destruction of Gaza's built environment, the homes, the hospitals, the schools, and the civilian infrastructure by the Israeli military with US weapons and tax dollars will take years to rebuild. 1.9 million Palestinians have been displaced by this destruction, and it is heartbreaking that the Palestinian health, safety, and welfare is not protected by the international community. Our vote, again, a vote for a ceasefire is the bare minimum. Our elected officials should be investing US tax dollars in our own communities, not in Israel's murder of Palestinians. And I believe our elected officials have a moral obligation to choose humanity and must vote for a ceasefire resolution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Meg Cass. Could you state your name and your ward?
Hello, I'm Meg Cass. I'm in Ward 2.
Go ahead and give your testimony. You have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. So I am a trans, queer, Jewish member of the St. Louis community. I'm also a fiction writer, a professor of English, and a reading series organizer. I want to make clear that passing this resolution is urgent and a local issue. When it comes to disrupting Israel's war crimes, everyone's voice matters. At the national level, our president is failing us, which makes it even more important that US cities speak out against Israel's war crimes against the Palestinian people, Israel's war crimes against Palestinian children, against over 100 journalists, against Palestinian poets and writers, against hospitals and medical workers, refugee camps and schools. Speaking out now at the local level matters for our city. As so many folks have already said, that we have a Palestinian community that is directly impacted, as well as for our Jewish community. As a Jewish person, I know that Israel's genocide makes Jews more unsafe because it makes all of us more unsafe. Violence does not stop violence, it multiplies it. As a Jew committed to treating all human life as precious, I say not in my name and support Resolution 137. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, your testimony. We're going to move on now to, I see Aya Hamden.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. My name is Aya Hamden. I'm a resident of Ward 4, and I'm a recent graduate from Washington University in St. Louis. My parents immigrated here to St. Louis, of all places, from the West Bank of Palestine in the late 80s. They left their homes, their entire families, and the entire world as they knew it to give me and my siblings a chance at a life that they never had the opportunity to live for generations because of Israeli occupation, war, and apartheid for over 75 years. And the American dream is dead. And to say that this is not a St. Louis issue is repulsive, ignorant, and delusional. Our beloved neighbors, Boeing, send the very bombs that kill my Palestinian brothers and sisters in Gaza. Our hard-earned tax dollars are funding this genocide led by President Genocide Joe. The blood of over 30,000 and counting Palestinians are on his hands. Most of my family remains in the West Bank, including my niece and nephew, where the Israeli offensive forces and settlers increasingly are inflicting violence and war crimes on Palestinians, and they always have. And we live in a constant fear for our loved ones. And I speak for all of my Palestinian family, and I speak for what is left of humanity, that we are so tired of begging for life and begging for America to see our lives as valuable and worthy. This ceasefire resolution is literally the bare minimum. End the occupation now and free Palestine once and for all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I have Jada. If you could give your first and last name and your ward.
Jada already testified.
Okay. Yes. I see Wendell Rubenstein.
Hello. Yeah, Wendell Rubenstein, Ward 7.
Go ahead.
Great. Hello. So my name is Wendell. I'm Jewish. I've lived in Tower Grove East for the past 5 years. And I'm testifying before you to urge you to support this resolution calling for ceasefire in Gaza and Israel. As many people mentioned, since October 7th, Israel's killed over 22,000 Palestinians in Gaza, and 80 to 90% of Gazans are now displaced from their homes. Earlier this week, The New Yorker reported on the catastrophic level of hunger in Gaza, with Gazans making up 80% of the people currently experiencing starvation in the entire world. This is clearly a textbook case of genocide, and as American citizens and taxpayers, our government is politically and financially supporting this atrocity, so we have a moral obligation to speak up. For example, it's estimated that over $5 million in federal tax dollars from St. Louis City residents go towards funding the Israeli military every year. I also wanted to say a couple things as a Jewish person, since I know it's possible for disingenuous claims about anti-Semitism to be used to attempt to block this resolution. And I guess just to be blunt, murdering 10,000 Palestinian children in 3 months does not make me any safer as a Jew. It does not make any person on this planet safer or better off. And I reject as ridiculous any claim that supporting or staying silent about this genocide helps combat anti-Semitism. And I know that true safety and liberation for Jewish people is fundamentally bound up in dismantling anti-Black racism, homophobia, imperialism, Islamophobia, and all other systems of oppression, because none of us are free until all of us are. I reject the politics of fascism, isolation, division, and fear-mongering, and embrace solidarity and community, and I hope you all will too. What is happening in Gaza before our eyes, it's really truly happening, and it could not happen without the full support and might of our American government backing and enabling the Israeli regime. This is a which side are you on moment in history. So with that being said, I strongly urge you all to support Resolution 137 and vote for its approval. And thank you very much.
Thank you. We have Keith Rose.
Good evening. My name is Keith Rose. I use he and they pronouns, and I live in the 6th Ward. And I wouldn't be speaking in support tonight. So here we are on January 9th, And I want to just take us back to after the atrocities of October 7th. I went to Washington, D.C. with about 1,000 people and 500 Jews and supportive Christians, righteous Jews, went into the US Capitol building and did the first ceasefire mass civil disobedience. And at the time when that happened, this protest of 500 Jews, 300 stayed and got arrested in righteous civil disobedience, led by more than a dozen rabbis from across the country. At the time, we thought that the ceasefire was imminent. We thought that there would be a ceasefire in the coming days. We were already planning out what to do next once that ceasefire happened. And it troubles me that here we are months later and still the bombs are dropping and still people are dying. And the fact that this resolution didn't pass last year is disturbing to me. The fact that it has taken the city so long to get to this process is very disappointing. The fact that we took a holiday break before doing this troubles me. And I want you all to understand the urgency of what it means when the deaths per day are as high as they are. And I encourage you to not put this off. I encourage you to pass this, and I encourage you to then go further into action. And I want to speak a little bit more about the connections to St. Louis. So I've heard multiple people say that this is not really a St. Louis issue. This is a national or international issue. I just want to point out that I don't know if people are very aware of this, but there is a company called ICL, Israel Chemicals Limited. They have a factory in Patch down on Idaho. And at that factory, this company, they produce white phosphorus. That white phosphorus, owned by the Israeli Chemicals Limited, has been used in Gaza against civilians. They have committed war crimes with weapons created here in the city of St. Louis. And so for people to say that this is not a St. Louis issue is disturbing. Our taxes are being paid by the company that is actually creating the chemicals being dropped on children. White phosphorus eats away at the human skin and will slowly kill you with almost no solution. People die over the course of days and weeks, not moments. And that is happening because of what is happening here in the city of St. Louis. And so we have a moral obligation to act and say not only not in our name, but that we will not participate in these war crimes and in this genocide anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Mr. Shadow Rodriguez.
Hi, thank you so much. Hi, so my name is Shadow Rodriguez. I live in Ward 1, Carondelet, and I'm also a co-director here at the Interfaith Committee on Latin America, IFCLA. I am an indigenous person, a Mexican person as well. And I want to be here to show solidarity to our Palestinian relatives and call for a ceasefire and hope that the Alder folks here support the resolution for a ceasefire. As an indigenous person, as a Latinx, we have a lot of similarities with our Palestinian relatives. We see a lot of parallels in our experiences and our journeys and the endeavors we do to try to fight for our autonomy, to try to fight for our well-being and for our livelihoods. And as an indigenous person, I speak pretty proudly with my whole chest representing the indigenous community, that the indigenous community of Greater St. Louis, the indigenous community of Missouri, indigenous community of Turtle Island, we welcome our Palestinian relatives. We stand in solidarity with our Palestinian relatives. And we have also heard the same thing, that this is a foreign issue, an international issue, that this is not a local issue to the city of St. Louis. Well, I'm a homeowner. I just moved to St. Louis. I just bought a home here in St. Louis. I came here partially for family, but partially because of the endeavors and the hopes I have of being part of a new community, a community I can be proud of. And knowing that my tax money, the taxes that I pay as a person who works here in St. Louis, person who owns a home here in St. Louis, knowing that my tax money is being used to commit genocide, as a victim, as a survivor of genocide myself, both from my indigenous ancestry and also as somebody who lived in a conflict zone in northern Mexico, who came here for a better opportunity in life. I'm disappointed to hear that. I'm disappointed to see this, and I'm disappointed for the lack of action. I think action needs to be taken now. I think the support for a resolution for ceasefire needs to be taken now. And we need to show solidarity for our Palestinian community that lives here in the greater St. Louis area and specifically the city, and who are proud residents of the St. Louis city. How dare us disappoint them? How dare us not show up for them at this time that they need our support? So I hope going forward that our alder people can do what's right and and just be urgent about passing this resolution. I have met some of you. Some of you have even been in my office, and I have shaken your hands. So I'm here to personally hold you accountable and personally ask you to support this resolution for a ceasefire.
Thank you so much. I have Cheryl Edelstein or Adelstein. I hope I pronounced it correctly.
Hello?
We can't see you.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to make you see me, and I did put my hand down. I'm not going to speak at this time, but thank you for calling on me.
Thank you. We can move on to Nida or Nita. If you could give me your first and last name and your ward.
Hi, my name is Nita Mouton. I do not live in a ward. I live in the county, but I do work at WashU in the city.
Could you
And
spell
I
your last
am
name for me, Miss Nita? Could you spell your last name?
Mutan.
Thank you.
No problem. So I'm here today in support of the ceasefire resolution. My testimony is a little bit more personal. So I just want to tell you a little bit about me. I am a second generation Palestinian American. I was born and raised here in St. Louis. You know, I grew up loving the Cardinals like every other American kid. I said the pledge before school every day. I also grew up learning how to, you know, dance Zebka, which is a Palestinian dance. I spoke Arabic. I attended the mosque for religious occasions and holidays. And I'm highlighting these facts about me to preface my statement, and I'm hoping you keep it in mind as I share my testimony, because too often Arabs and Palestinians and Muslims were cast as the other, with people even demanding our deportation despite us being citizens, you know, especially when we use our voice to protest injustice in the country where we were raised. So to continue, I lived in Palestine during my senior year of high school. I witnessed the inequities of the occupation. I lived in my family's West Bank village where we could see settlements around us. And I saw the border wall when we first entered. I saw all the checkpoints and the outposts that were set up to surveil my people and control my people. Access to clean water was not always easy. You know, there were always outages so that the water could be diverted to settlements. There were power outages. And these are just a few of the instances of the inequalities that Palestinians face on a daily basis. And when I was living there, you know, we often heard in the news about confrontations between Palestinians and settlers or with soldiers. And oftentimes this would result in the restriction of travel and just generally making life harder for the Palestinian, you know, population that's living there. As someone raised in the US, despite hearing about this all my life, it's very shocking when you go there and you witness it yourself. It's not something that you can just get used to. And I had it easier having an American passport, but American passports are not protecting those Americans who are still stuck in Gaza. There are currently 300 or so Americans that are still stuck in Gaza that are trapped under bombardment, starving and hungry. And they are not getting any aid whatsoever, at least not that is substantial for what they need. My family in the West Bank is facing settler violence on a daily basis at this point of time. Settlers are entering our village every single day. Some of my relatives in Gaza, they have been martyred. In the eyes and faces of every person I see in those videos, I see myself, I see my family, and I know that I avoided that because I was lucky, but that could have easily been me in their shoes. So when you think of this as a non-local issue, this is something that all of the Palestinians in your city and your county are feeling. You know, I see the diversity in this panel, and I know that, you know, maybe not everyone can identify with the videos, but nobody wants their own people to be targeted because of their culture or where they were born or who they are. The US is supposedly a melting pot of immigrants from different cultures, and Palestinians are not excluded from that. I am a St. Louisan, I'm a Missourian, I'm an American who has voted for the president, and I am a Palestinian. I demand a ceasefire for my people, an end to the occupation, and for my council to do what is right for humanity and vote for a ceasefire. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I see Alejandra. If you could state your first and last name and your ward for me.
Yeah, Alejandra Uchital, Ward 6.
Spell your last name for me.
UCHITE.
And what's your ward?
There's three more. It's LLE, the last three letters of my last name.
Okay.
Ward 6.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm here to speak as a Jewish resident of St. Louis City. It's been really, really disappointing to see that the Board of Aldermen has not yet called for a permanent ceasefire. And I think it's imperative that they do so as soon as possible. St. Louis is home to thousands of Jews and Palestinians alike, and the board's inaction puts us all in danger. And I reject the notion that St. Louis has nothing to do with the war on Gaza, with all of our tax money going to Israel's weapon funds each year, money which could be going to our city's residents. And I really urge the board to hear the calls of the thousands of St. Louisans who have been turning out on the streets for months now, calling for a ceasefire. And we really need to be joining Chicago, Atlanta, Akron, Wilmington, and Rhode Island, several other cities in Michigan to call for a permanent ceasefire. The safety of our Palestinian brothers and sisters in Gaza and in St. Louis and everywhere else in the world hinges on cities like us pressuring leadership in Washington to heed the call for the ceasefire that we know now a majority of voters in the US want. And I want to echo Jada's calls earlier that this resolution should also include calls for an end to the occupation of Palestine and should not be talking down on any resistance efforts by the Palestinians, as they have a international right under international law to resist the occupation. And Zionism puts Jews all over the world in danger, in St. Louis and everywhere, and is harming Palestinians every day, and it is not keeping any of us safe. Neither is Israel. And the actions of the Israeli government are endangering everyone right now. So I really want to urge the Board of Aldermen to do the absolute bare minimum in calling for a ceasefire right now. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Sasha Zimmel.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Sasha Zemmel, and I am a constituent of Ward 6, I believe. And I support the resolution for a ceasefire. Supported it 90 some days ago. I honestly feel like there's nothing really more to say that hasn't already been said, but I just want to echo the fact that I think it's a little funny to hear that people as educated as y'all are saying this is not a local issue. Like, come on, y'all know that it is, or that's just something you're saying. It kind of sounds like a cop-out to me. And I apologize, we don't want to criticize or, cause tension, but you've got to be feeling the tensions and the hurt from people in our community. And St. Louis is, yeah, we might be a small city and we don't think, but no, we're mighty. And we might be one of those cities, other cities are doing this. We might be one of those cities that just is the last domino to push it so the rest of them fall. So the rest of the whole world is already standing up for Palestine. How many more people need to die? How many more people need to speak up, tell a story, show you evidence? It just blows my mind that we are even having this conversation, that we have over 100 people in here waiting to just give their story. Like, you don't need to hear any more stories. Support the resolution. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have Peter. If you could give your first, last name, and ward.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Peter Cassis, that's Kassees, and I'm in Ward 6. Hello, everyone. I'm a Palestinian here in St. Louis, and I'm here to plead you to vote for the ceasefire resolution. Over the past 3 months, we have seen death beyond imagination. The Israeli attacks on Gaza have wreaked havoc on every aspect of their lives, from the very infrastructure that allows them to live to entire families being wiped off the map. It's very easy to brush this off as a foreign issue, as many have already said. But the fact of the matter is that this affects people in St. Louis, as many have already testified. There are many people here with family in Gaza who are suffering, who are living in fear day to day, not knowing if their family will live or die. A friend of mine came back one time with a list of 50 family members who had died. And this is not a truth that is isolated to just them. In fact, this is a truth that is universal to Palestinians. This is a pain that they have felt for years and years and years. It is a wound being reopened over the past 75 years and is being reopened for the world to see. It is imperative that we stand, St. Louis stands, for a ceasefire resolution, that they stand with a slew of other cities standing against genocide, standing for justice. As many have already said, including Aya and Jada and others, saying that this is the absolute bare minimum. It is not something that is controversial. It is a ceasefire. It is asking for the bombing to stop. It is asking for Palestinian children to live. In fact, I urge you to even push for more, to push for political prisoners to be released, to push for an end to the occupation, to push for an end to the siege in Gaza, and to push for divestment in St. Louis. I urge you to vote for Resolution 137. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jacob Barakowitz.
Hello. My name is Jacob Berkowitz. I'm a Jew who was raised in St. Louis. I grew up going to Central Reformed Congregation in the Central West End. I've lived and worked in the city for the majority of my adult life. I currently work in Ward 11. In the past 3 months, we have seen over 23,000 Palestinians killed by Israel, including 10,000 children, hundreds of journalists and healthcare workers intentionally targeted. Israel is currently facing charges of genocide at the World Court brought about by South Africa, and there's no other way to describe what is happening. And as a Jew, I know that genocide must be stopped immediately. It's all of our duty to stand for the bare minimum in this time of calling for a lasting ceasefire. We must also recognize that this did not begin on October 7th, yet it is a moment in a lineage of violence enacted on Palestine by Israel with unwavering support of the United States, with our tax dollars, with bombs made here, including in St. Louis. I also want to speak to the idea that Israel and its supporters, including local Jewish organizations, claim to speak for all Jews. And I'm here to say that is not true. We are not a monolith, and there are more Jews who support a ceasefire and a free Palestine than those people want the world to see. Like, we're here, we're calling for it nationally, globally, in this city. And I truly hope that you pass this resolution to show up for the Palestinians who live in your city. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Berkowitz. Could you give me your ward again?
Ward 11.
Thank you. We have Drew. Drew, are you still there?
I'm here.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
see you? Yes, could you show your face and so you can give your testimony, your first and last name and your ward?
Yeah, I'm working on that. Can you see me now?
No, sir.
I'm using my phone, so I haven't used Zoom in a while on this.
Chair Velasquez, did you want him to go ahead and give his testimony without seeing his face, or?
Hey, Drew, Mr. Can you work on finding the camera and then we can come back to you? Oh, there we go. We see you now. But you're on mute.
There, I'll unmute him. There you go, Mr. Drew.
Thank
Could you state
you.
your first and last name?
I'm Drew Falvey, Falvey. I am a constituent of the 9th Ward under Michael Browning. I would like to speak as a person who knows a a thing or two about being oppressed. As a person who's been raised in an all-white family, as a person who's been raised in a church and everything else, I believe that those who are oppressed should be free. I believe that I see a similar recognition between Ferguson as well as Palestine. Palestine has been there for us when we went through Ferguson. It's time for us to be there for Palestine. No more messing around. We're at over 300,000 Palestinians dead. How many more need to die? We're facing our own genocide here in St. Louis. I won't speak on that right now, but the genocide happens all around the world. Don't forget about Congo as well. No more playing around. Pass the resolution now. You know who you are. Thank you.
Thank you. Kalia Edwards.
Hello, my name is Kalia. I am a resident of Ward 3. I'm also a born and raised St. Louisan, here calling on the Board of Aldermen to support the ceasefire resolution 137, a permanent ceasefire. I am just speaking on behalf of my own life experience as a born and raised St. Louisan. I'm just reminding the board of what it was like to have lived in St. Louis during 2014, to have seen low-scale military occupation in our own home. And I'm saying this not as someone who lived in Ferguson, Missouri during 2014. I'm saying this as someone who lived in St. Louis City during 2014. So I remember the mornings going to school, what it was like to wake up and see the military tanks and see the military police with their large guns in our city. And so I can't imagine what our brothers and sisters in Palestine have been experiencing. I started supporting the Palestinian cause when I learned about it in 2017, actually, and learning about the genocide of Palestinians in 2017. And so, yeah, this is not, I want to repeat the calls from other people who've been mentioning. Yeah, this did not start this did not start on October 7th. This has been an ongoing thing, an ongoing fight that St. Louis has been deeply connected to, even if we haven't always realized it, right? And so currently in this moment, 500,000 of our St. Louis dollars are going to fund this genocide and going to fund this current occupation and this current the fighting that's happening, and so support Israel in that. And so, yeah, I definitely want this ceasefire resolution to go forward and to let St. Louis know that like what we do matters, the decisions that we make matter, and to urge on us all to be on the right side of history here in this moment. Thank you.
Thank you. I see that we have 4 new panelists that I just brought over. If you guys could show your faces. Okay. Looking for one more. Miss Nancy Lisker.
It looks like they're still over on the participants or the attendee side.
I'm trying to get her over. She's not moving. There she goes. Okay, if you guys could raise your right hand. I'm gonna take you all off mute, the ones that I can see. I'll mute you. Do you affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this cause is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. We're going to start with Miss Brooke Becker.
Hi, Brooke Becker, 4th Ward. I'm an American Jew. I've lived in St. Louis for the past 5 years now. I want to second what Jada's statement previously stated, that this is, and previous speakers, that this is the barest of minimums. This is not nearly far enough. This did not begin on October 7th. This began in 1948 with the murder and displacement of 750,000 Palestinians and millions more over the next 8 decades. I'd like to also emphasize that this could not be more of a local issue. Just down within a 20-minute drive at maximum from anywhere in the city, you can go to Boeing, where there was smart bombs dropped on the Jabalia refugee camps and many other refugee camps across Palestine, specifically produced here in St. Louis. And I would like to also emphasize that Bloomberg has reported on more than one occasion about accelerated orders specifically from Boeing's factories in St. Louis to Israel within the time span of this escalated genocide. So while there's been further delay from city council, they have not been delaying. They have been amping up the murder and genocide and bombing and escalating production here in St. Louis at Boeing's factories. This is a moral obligation to speak out and to condemn this, and to not condemn the resistance of a continuously genocided and occupied populace in any means necessary. Zionism does not make me safer as an American Jew. It does not make any Jews anywhere in the world safer. It actually makes us significantly less safe. And it is not a representative of my Jewishness or my family or history. I can see the rest of my time. This is a moral obligation to do this in the barest of minimums.
Thank you for your testimony. Victoria, could you state your first, last name, and your ward for me? I'm sorry, we cannot hear you, Miss Victoria. Miss Victoria, we can't hear you.
I'm unmuted.
There you go. We can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, first and last name and your ward, please.
My name is Victoria Hughes. I am in Ward 3, I believe. I have been a St. Louis City resident for the last 9 years. I grew up in St. Charles, and I'll be, one of the first people to say that, like, I am newer to this issue and I was not as informed as I should have been, but it did not take long for me to come to the realization and understanding of, like, how awful this is and that a ceasefire is the only way. I am not a practicing Jew, but it is a Jewish person, but it is in my lineage and I have always been very proud of it. And the only thing that has made me ashamed of it is Israel committing genocide in the name of Jewish people. It's absolutely atrocious. And to see the amount of children alone that have been murdered is absolutely devastating. And to say that it's not a local issue is completely ignorant when our tax dollars are funding this, like many have said. And we have so many issues at home that money could be going towards. The amount of homeless people that are on my street alone that could use that money to help them just to get off the street is astounding. And sorry, I have I get shaky speaking in front of people, but that's another thing, is that this has been so awful that, like, this has drawn me to do this, and this is not like a normal thing for me, and it just has to stop. And I vote for, if I didn't say it before, that I'm definitely for this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Sarah Banara.
Yes, hi, it's Sara Banura. I don't live in the city right now, but I used to work for Channel 4, and I worked in the city for years, and I told the stories of the city for years. And there's already so much has been said, but I want to bring attention to the conversation from that aspect. Just, I think it's very dangerous when we claim that something clearly we've already established we fund, we support, right? To claim that it's not a local issue. And I want to share a little story just to tell you about the danger of language. when 2014, I'm originally from Palestine, born and raised. I'm Christian. We're a minority back home. And I moved here in 2013. In 2014, I lost my home for a little bit. I was unhoused for a while. And then this very nice elderly couple from this church I used to go to here in St. Louis decided to take me in. Okay, I'm in a different country, culture shock, that wasn't as comfortable and confident with the language. And this is 2014. And the war on Gaza had broke. Israel started attacking our people. And 2 weeks after moving in with them, they were watching the news and they were repeating what the anchorman was saying. He was saying, yes, kill all the Palestinian terrorists. And I'm there 3 feet next to him in the living room, living in their house, right? And they took me in because I'm a Christian from Bethlehem, the land of Jesus. My father is a pastor. They thought the world of me. They took me into their home and then they looked at people that look like me on the TV. And they cheered on with the conversation, the narrative, the language, claiming that my people who have my skin color, my eye color, who speak my language, have my accent, are terrorists. And this is why you cannot claim this is not a local issue, because what you say, your people will repeat it, right? Where you stand, that's what your people are that's where they're gonna stand. If you think their elected officials think that we're terrorists and this is wrong, then when I go and visit with them and I eat with them and I walk and go to school with them, then I'm also a terrorist, and that's not okay. Working for the news in St. Louis City, I am very well aware of our problems with crime, with food, poverty. There is so much we need to be doing for our people. If it's not a local issue, then get it out of here, right? Stop funding it. Stop producing bombs that are contributing to the ethnic cleansing of my folks, my people. We are not less. And I mean, today's show of support, everybody's been pro the ceasefire resolution so far. Please, you're using your ears, we're using our voices. Please let it in and hear it and pass it. And we're wanting this to be just the first step for more work together with the city, with the Palestinian people, so that it doesn't take 3 months to negotiate and debate whether we're pro peace or not. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Saida Conejo Zuniga.
That's my LA.
Okay. I see Amna.
Amna Zahrani, yes.
Did you want to give a testimony?
Yes, I cannot seem to make my camera work, so I apologize. I can hop off the meeting and rejoin and ask to speak again if necessary.
How did you want to do this, Chair Velasquez?
If you wouldn't mind, and you could, just because we've been asking that of everybody. And
No, of course. Of course. I just wanted to clarify that before I jumped off. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I'll rejoin.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. It looks as if I see
2 more hands up in the attendees, but
Nancy Lisker. She declined to speak, but I do see Benin that I did promote over. Benin, could you raise your right hand for me? We can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Oh, yes,
There we go. Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Miss Nancy Lisker, I see you're there. Could you raise your right hand for me?
Aura, there's one more who just raised their hand on the other side if you want to.
I see it, Miss Rachel Brown.
Amna is back. Miss Amna is back as well.
Okay, let me get her in. Okay, so we see Miss Nancy Lisker, Rachel Brown, and Miss Amna. Is she there? Okay, we see you. Miss Amna, could you raise your right hand for me? So everybody raise their right hand. Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. So we can go ahead and start with Miss Bannon.
Yes, hi. I'm Banan Eid. I'm a Palestinian American born and raised in the United States. The majority of my life has been spent in the St. Louis region, though I did spend a few teenage years in the Palestinian West Bank, and witnessed the occupation in action while I was there. I currently work at Washington University School of Medicine. I actually don't live in the in the city. But I wanted to just share a story. I do support a resolution for for a ceasefire. I wanted to tell you about a young woman named Hadid who has a St. Louis connection. In 2008, she sustained a head injury. She was, I believe, 9 years old at the time, that required more extensive treatment than she could get in Gaza during the 2008-2009 aggressions by Israel against Gaza. In 2011, through an organization called Palestine, PCRF, which is Palestine Children's Relief Fund, Hadid came to a local Palestinian family in order to receive treatment for her injuries. Forgive me, I don't recall the details of her injury, but I do believe that it had her skull had been fractured, leaving her brain easily susceptible to injury. She received care from a local Palestinian surgeon at Cardinal Glennon through PCRF. And before her injury, before her surgery, she was afraid of doing so many things because it could easily lead, anything could easily lead to more severe injury. She couldn't do anything too physical because where others might get a bump on the head, her injuries could cause severe brain trauma and even death. It was a blessing that she could get the care and treatment that she received here in St. Louis. I think she really enjoyed her time here. Her host family made her feel really welcome, and the community, specifically the Palestinian American community here in St. Louis, supported her as much as we could. I remember trips to the zoo and a party celebrating her birthday. In 2011, she turned 14. When she returned to Gaza, she kept in touch via Facebook and Instagram, but not as much as we would have liked to have kept in touch. We saw her graduate high school and college, and she lived through several more Israeli attacks during the teens. She posted regularly before October, updating us on life in Gaza. I remember a lot of pictures of tea and cookies and other food posts. But in October, her posts became prayers and updates such as, "God, we ask you to get us out of this war in peace. God, the heart can no longer bear this. Stop this war. No water, no electricity, no internet, no food." And then her last message was on October 27th, which translates to, "Prayer is a commandment between us, and we will meet in the gardens of eternity." I just pray she's alive, but when you see the images coming out of Gaza, it's difficult to stay optimistic. Hadid's birthday was just last month, and I hope she turned 26. And I ask you to pass the ceasefire resolution, and I just hope it's not too late for Hadid. Thank you for giving me the time to tell her story.
Thank you for your testimony. Ms. Rachel Brown.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Brown, and I'm here today to express my support for Resolution 137. I'm testifying both as a St. Louis City resident and also as a Jew deeply horrified by the ongoing genocide in Gaza. Like many others in this meeting, I stand in solidarity with Palestinians in our community who've been made to watch family, friends, and communities subjected to unimaginable violence over the last 90 days, facing bombs manufactured by a company based in St. Louis. With a death toll over 23,000 and as a city that gives more than $5 million in tax dollars to Israel annually, this is indeed a local issue concerning us all. Organizations across St. Louis, too numerous to name, have all come together to support Cori Bush in her calls for a ceasefire, which is indicative of the moral standing and the opinions of your constituents. Local city governments have also long played a crucial role in turning the tide in the face of global injustice and standing on the right side of history, from the movement to end apartheid in South Africa, including the St. Louis Coalition Against Apartheid in the 1980s, to resistance to the Vietnam War and the war in Iraq. Many politicians with strategic interests in the Middle East have weaponized the historic deaths of Jews as a way to justify Israeli colonialism and violence. Every day, this language is used to hush regular citizens who morally object to these atrocities, telling them it's not their issue, or it isn't local enough, or it doesn't apply to them. This is a sinister way of using Jews' names against our will, one we wholeheartedly reject. Our generation knows that Israel is not the solution to anti-Semitism, that a ceasefire is a bare minimum, that calls for an end to the occupation and a free Palestine are not radical, but basic. Thank you for your time and for standing on the right side of history.
Thank you for your testimony. Ms. Brown, can you tell me what ward you're in?
Yes, I'm in Ward 7.
Thank you. Ms. Amna Alzarani?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My name is Amna Zahrani. I work in Ward 6. I am Saudi Arabian. I moved to the United States in 2017.
Or you
And
can drive here. And we
I'm
can
sorry?
here.
I'm sorry? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think someone got unmuted.
Okay, but you can still hear me right now?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
We can see you too.
I'll restart. My name is Amna Zahrani. I'm a dual citizen of Saudi Arabia and the United States. I moved here in 2017. The reason I'm speaking is because I moved to St. Louis in 2021. My job is to work in different communities and different aspects, and to see children in food pantries with their parents as they stand in line to get food is something that was absolutely horrifying. I almost couldn't finish the first day that I volunteered through my job at a food pantry, just because I was so struck by what is going on in the city. And to claim that this doesn't affect our community is very strange to me, since that $5 million that is sent from the tax money that is taken out of my check every 2 weeks from work that I put in 40 hours or more every week doesn't make very much sense to me. So I'm here to say that I'm not sure if you guys work in the city food pantries and see what happens there, but it is a local issue, and it directly affects the people in your wards. And as many have said in their testimonies, they come from Palestine. They grew up there. They have family there. They are being directly affected by this. People that are under your care, people that you are supposed to represent, are directly affected by this. So again, I'm not sure how this isn't a local issue, since it's our money that is being sent over there to fund this, since it's our people that are directly being affected by this, whether it be their families in Gaza that are dying every day, or it be the people that could have benefited from the money that is being sent over there to fund a genocide and ethnic cleansing of the population. To wait on a ceasefire is another horrifying issue for me, since every day that a ceasefire is not called for, an absolute minimum of 100 children are killed, are murdered every single day. An example of this is a child that didn't even reach 6 months old, that survived one bombing and then moved to another safe designation, and lost her family in another bombing, was moved to a hospital, and then was bombed again. 3 times she survived bombings. I do not have an update on this child. I do not know if she
survived after that or not. Another example is a 13-year-old child that had lost her family members and then lost her limb and was in a hospital being taken care of when an Israeli missile was targeted into the hospital and into her room, and she died of impact. Every day that a ceasefire is not called, another 100 children, again, minimum, since we do not actually know the accurate numbers, since they have lost communications with the North and telecommunications have been cut off a minimum of 6 times, with the Palestinians struggling to bring it back up each and every single time, with them trying to rely on us buying eSIMs and sending it to their email so that way they could just get their voices out, so that way they could beg for us to reach out to our representatives and do something for them, since no one else will and no one else cares. So we are here to beg you. We are here to demand that you stand up for humanity, that you stand on the right side of history, and that you stand up for the voiceless, because that's why you have these jobs. It's to make a difference. It's to stand with humanity. It's to take care of the people. And this is why I beg you to agree and to pass this resolution. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Ms. Nancy Lisker.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and to all the people present. My name is Nancy Lisker. I'm a 18-year resident of St. Louis County. And I'm here representing myself as an American Jew, but also as director of the Regional Office of American Jewish Committee, AJC, National and International Advocacy Organization. AJC recognizes and appreciates the well-intentioned efforts of the Legislations and Rules Committee members to seek a solution to the war between Israel and Hamas via these resolution calling for a ceasefire. I recognize that what I will say is on the opposite side of what all the people in this committee have been saying. However, we're not. We also have to agree that there are two sides to every conflict. This is a very complicated conflict, a long-standing conflict, and I have sent a letter to the different members of the committee, and what AJC wants, besides the resolution, and whatever happens with the resolution, is to call on the members on the committee to sit down with AJC and to start talking about what is going on past this resolution, because the resolution is very important. However, factual information needs to be discussed. I have to say that as a woman and as a Jew, as an American, I am disappointed that none of the people today that have given testimony have made mention of the fact that it was Hamas, a recognized terrorist organization by the United States, by multiple governments of any party of the United States, is a terrorist organization whose founding charter calls for the destruction of the state of Israel and of any residents of the state of Israel, be they Jewish or not. So no mention of that. Also no mention by any person who testified today of the fact that there was a long-standing ceasefire that was broken by Hamas on October 6th. And by the breaking of that ceasefire on October 7th, the day when the atrocities by Hamas began. I'm very, very disappointed that as a woman, that nobody mentioned the monstrous rapes and sexual crimes against civilian girls, women, and men that now amount, per United Nations rapporteurs, they amount to crimes against humanity. Women and girls who were shot in the genitals, who were done brutality never seen before in the history of the world. Nobody has been mentioning what happened on October 7th. And then the ensuing capture of 240 civilians who were peace-loving civilians who lived in southern Israel, 120 of which remain in captivity in Gaza. Nobody mentions that. They range in ages from 7 months to 85 years of age. 120 people who haven't even been visited by the Red Cross. We don't know where they are. We don't know who they are. And so I want to reiterate, AJC and the Jewish people in general abhor the loss of life on any side, but our longstanding commitment to a durable two-state solution, and I'll end by this, is that the only realistic solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and to be achieved, it must be established through direct bilateral negotiations between the parties themselves. The goal should be two states living side by side in peace and security. There isn't one without the other. So I urge again to the members of the Rules and Regulations and invite Alderman Rasheen Aldridge and Alderwoman Megan Green and everybody to sit down with us and to have a conversation. We will not agree on everything, but we have to move this forward beyond this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. We now have, it looks like, Ansley Harkins. Harkins.
It's Ainsley Harkins.
Ansley Harkins.
Hello.
Hello.
Do I need to swear in or?
Yes, I have another one that's in.
There are two more too. There's Emmanuel and it looks like who need to be moved over.
Okay, we see a Liz that's asking to be promoted over, but she's not accepting, so I'm not sure what's going on. She declined. Okay, so the ones that we do have here, if you could raise your right hand. I'm gonna turn you off of mute. Raise your right hand for me. Naveen Ashias, can we see your face? Thank you.
Yes, hello.
Okay. Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with Ms. Ansley Harkins.
Yes. First of all, I think it's very bold to get on a Zoom in City Hall after how many days and 20,000 civilian deaths, maybe 30,000 civilian deaths, and bring it back to crimes about rape when it's known for many, many years that this occupation was established through means of genocide, through rape, through the rape of Palestinian women. And to come here and say, you are a woman, so you do not feel seen. I want to question what you feel seen in seeing Palestinian women being hurt, but I obviously know that you do not see Palestinian women as women and you do not care about these people. So I don't really want to address you, but I think it's disgusting that you would come on and just throw that around. I'd also like to start off by saying that this is a very, very late meeting and we desperately do need our city to call for a ceasefire, but it's very disappointing to see that this is how long it took 3 months for our city to come together and even have a meeting about this resolution when within days of what happened, Oldenburg and Boyd drafted their resolutions calling for a pro-Israel resolution, and Alderman Cohn called for pretty much a useless solidarity with Israel and Palestine, not to mention that the Palestinian resolution for a ceasefire we have today wasn't even drafted or put out there for us until after members of the St. Louis community came out to airport and disrupted a city council meeting. Also how, like Megan Green, even in your statement when it came out, the first statement that came out was many days late, and the first thing mentioned is Hamas needs to pay for their crimes, and calling them the equivalent to the Taliban. And yes, it called for a ceasefire, but this is such a late response when there's been so much time, when this did not start on October 7th, when this has been going on for ages, where our Missouri has been sending millions and millions of dollars to bombs every day. And I'm kind of repeating the same thing of what other people have been saying, is that not saying anything or just having a ceasefire, this is the barest minimum, just having a resolution. Because even with the ceasefire resolution, we're not seeing our city take action to protect the Palestinians in our community. In fact, the Palestinians in our community that may still be in Gaza being attacked by the bombs that our city is paying for, that our community is paying for. So I'm really disappointed in this board, but not surprised that it took this long for this to happen, to even have a space for community members to talk about that. I also think it's ridiculous considering how much support we've seen for protests for Palestine, because we know where the community in St. Louis stands with. We know who's getting the power. We know who people are showing up for. We know how many children have been killed because of this. We know how many children are continuously being killed. While we are having this meeting, there are children being bombed. There are men being bombed. There are women being bombed. There are people being bombed right now. While this board is still sitting around bickering about whether or not this is going to happen, while we're still waiting, now we've spent 3 months in it. Now we're going to listen to community members. When so many people got thrown out of a city council meeting, when we tried to bring this up.
I have 2 questions. One, we have a 2-minute time limit, so thank you for your testimony. Can you let us know what ward you're in?
I'm in Ward 5.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. And just a reminder for all the participants, the questions are for the committee and we're talking to the committee. So when you address your comments, we're not having a dialogue, but thank you for your time and thank you for testifying.
All right, we have Miss Naveen Ashies.
Hello, it's Ayush, Naveen Ayush. Good evening, everybody. Wow, this was a lot. Everything is a lot. And I did not come prepared. I didn't write anything out for you guys because I don't have it in me anymore. I should not have to sit here right now asking you guys to call on an end to the killing of my people. And I'm going to correct the young woman that spoke prior with whatever organization, the Zionist organization, lying organization. She came to lie, you lying woman, to lie to you guys about. Facts matter. The truth matters. When she's lying and wanting to meet with you guys to lie, people that look like me and share my last name and places I grew up and made memories in are dying. She wants to manipulate the truth. History began before October 7th. And that's something you guys need to know and she needs to know. This is a place she and everybody you guys meet with will never live in, will never reside in. It's Wakanda to them, a vacation home. As they're slaughtering my people and continuing to slaughter them. They want to slaughter Gaza so they can move into it. Okay? The hostages that have been released, go listen to what they had to say. Israeli women were not raped. And if I'm wrong, take what you guys want, and I can apologize about it. But there has not been one credible source. Not one, even the one person that came forward and said she was a witness was not even there. Facts matter. That all matters. And then it's not up to you guys, any of you guys, to decide the solution and the resolution and the future of my people. But it is up to you guys. You do have a civic duty to call it a ceasefire because it is our tax dollars funding these atrocities. And you guys are progressive on every other thing in the world except for Palestine. And I'm sick of it. And I'm sick of being nice about it. I'm sick of it. I have lost my mind at this point. Like, I don't eat, I don't sleep. My whole life has been affected. While they want to meet in their suits with you guys over meetings and coffee and whatever freaking fundraisers they want to host you guys, my people are dying. And I'm sorry for the informalities. I'm tired of being politically correct. I'm tired of it. And actually I'm not sorry. Israel's wars on children. The children of Palestine are dying right now and they're becoming orphans.
Thank you, Ms. Ayesh. We're 2 minutes. We're past 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you tell me what ward you're in, Ms. Naveen?
You know what? I used to live in the city. I'm sorry, I don't live in the city anymore, but I'll tell you guys this, there's not a ward in your city that is not full of Palestinians that own businesses and contribute to the city and to the better of this city.
Thank you. Mr. Emmanuel Taruna and Miss Elisa, and I think Dura Masin, could you raise your right hand for me? Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. All right, so we're down to the last few, so we're
I
going to
just
go
want
ahead.
to jump in real quick. These will be the last three. I mentioned at the beginning of this meeting that we would end at minimum with public testimony at 5:55 so we could vote. And I know that it's an important subject, and I know that people have a lot to say. We want to hear it, but we also we are got to keep to a time schedule. So thank you.
Right, we're going to go ahead and start with, we're going to just start with who I see in line. Let's go ahead and start with Miss Hufsa Siddiqui.
Hi, it's Hafsa Siddiqui. I had prepared something to speak, but I believe that everything that I was going to share has already been spoken on. And for the record, I am not a St. Louis City resident, but I do patronize a lot of the businesses there pretty frequently. So I feel like it is something I can speak on. And I believe that this is a pretty big issue that we have seen multiple sides on, but there's only one resolution here, and that is a ceasefire. And that is, again, the first step in a long line of steps to liberation. Because and I see a lot of people saying this began October 7th, this began in 1948. And the truth is it began even before that, because the Zionist state had been implemented well before World War II had begun and ended. And so the effects that we're seeing now are effects of the Zionist truth, as you can maybe call it. And forgive me for my lack of words here. It's not something I've prepared anymore, but I believe after hearing the testimony of somebody that we just saw a few testimonies ago, I believe it's something important to say that there's so many people that are just coming to mind right now at the top of my head. For example, young children such as Ahmed Manasra, who were tried as children, as adults in military courts. Where is the truth about them? If we want to talk about October 7th and the alleged crimes against people and the brutal sexual crimes and everything that you're speaking of, there's ample proof of Palestinian victims and so many international laws being broken that we are not seeing accountability for, not any responsibility for, no justification for. It is being done in cold blood. It is ethnic cleansing, because we are seeing them wiping out generations, family member by family member. Recently in the news, I saw a potential Hamas member being taken out of Lebanon or somewhere outside of Gaza. Forgive me for not knowing exactly where, but it was done so tactically that they were taken out of a building where the rest of the building was still intact. Why are we seeing entire neighborhoods, entire villages, entire cities being collapsed with no regard to human life? Buildings, medical centers, refugee camps. There's so many things that we're not being able to even bring to light because the atrocities do not stop. And I think a lot of us are being frustrated and angry, having to fight for us to agree that this is a genocide worth stopping, that this is a crime worth stopping.
Ms. Hussein, thank you for your testimony. That is your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to Mr. Emmanuel Taruni. Could you please state your first and last name and your ward?
Emmanuel Taranu, I'm in Ward 5. Thank you for hearing my testimony. I'm extremely grateful for all of the work and organizing that's been done in St. Louis around the country and around the world for this issue. It is a shame. I want to echo what Naveen said, that Palestinians and other Arab voices had to bear the burden of yelling out for decades for justice, just for the world to see them. But I wanted to make one thing clear in my testimony, that the world is changing. And if you think this is not a local issue, you're extremely mistaken, because we are never going back. And elections will come back around and we will know what has happened in our country to support this genocide in Palestine. So of course I support this resolution 137. It's the bare minimum that we can do. You will hear Zionists and Zionist sympathizers come on here and in other channels, and they will be spreading lies, talking about this racist dog whistling. And we've had enough of this kind of language. You don't need to know every single fact on the ground to know what your heart is telling you, to know what is right. When you see a genocide unfolding on your screen in front of you in real time, we see snipers shooting women and children in the streets. So all this dog whistling about they're here to get Hamas, no, we've seen it with our own eyes. We know better. And everyone in this room, in this chat, and in this country needs to know better. And we need to not only call a ceasefire in 3 months ago, but we need to call for an end to this brutal occupation and a systematic disassembly of the entire apparatus of occupation, because it's not making any Jews safer. Let me just ask the members of this committee rhetorically, how is spending 50% of our budget on police worked out for the US and US cities? How is that working out for crime? How is spending 50% of our national budget on military working for reducing so-called terrorism around the world? Okay, how are these policies working out for us at home?
Mr. Taranu, I'm sorry, that is your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and move on to Ms. Elise Mazio. State your first and last name and your ward for me, please.
Hi, my name is Elise Mazio, and I'm currently not living in a ward, but I did live in St. Louis County for 2 years, in the past 2 years. On November 8th, children in Gaza held a press conference in English to beg the world to stop the bombardment. And since then, more than 12,000 children have been killed. No one listened, so I would like to read a transcript of their press conference, and that's relevant to today's resolution. Quote, since the 7th of October, we faced extermination, killing, bombing falling all over our heads. All of this in front of the world. They lied to the world that they kill the fighters, but they kill the people of Gaza, their dreams and their future. Kids of Gaza run out of their hopes and wants. We come to Al-Shifa Hospital to keep us from bombing. We suddenly run out of death more after bombing the hospital. The occupation is starving us. We don't find water, food, and we drink the unusable water. We come now to shout and invite you to protect us. We want to live. We want peace. We want to judge the killers of children. We want medicine, food, and education, and we want to live as the other children live, end quote. I just want you to listen to these children and listen to Palestinians. Use this resolution to call for a ceasefire, the divestment from the genocide and the occupation. We must call for the release of Palestinian political prisoners, and we must use our power and our voices to support those who are crying out for help. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Last, we have Mr. Dora Mosing.
Hello, I would like to thank you guys, and I know I'm going to keep it short. As we sit in a country built off the backs of slaves and the genocide of Native Americans, we need to recognize our responsibility to call what is occurring in Palestine what it is. It's a genocide. As a healthcare professional, I'm very sickened and deeply distraught by seeing the atrocities I'm witnessing occurring to the innocent civilians and the medical systems in Gaza, and occurring to all of occupied Palestine territories. When Israel is able to take away food, water, and aid, and then furthering not allowing aid to enter Gaza, it's obvious what Israel's goal is. And so when doctors and their families who are targeted are operating without any medications, anesthesia, pain medications, antibiotics, etc., we need to recognize where we stand. Do we want to stand on the right side of history? Freedom of speech is labeled as free speech only when speech is pro the oppressor. Sadly, freedom of speech for the oppressed and marginalized is censored, illegitimate, and threatened by jail, fines, just complete censorship. So for that reason, and for all the other reasons that the other constituents did obviously point out, I do want to put my support out for the resolution. I am also St. Louis County resident. I don't know which ward I'm in, but it's Chesterfield.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you. And I want to thank everybody who's participated today. As you know, it's nearing 6 o'clock, so I'm going to conclude the public testimony portion of this meeting. I will drop the clerk's email address in the chat. So if anybody wants to send over additional testimony in the official testimony of record, I would recommend emailing the clerk, as well as any other older people you'd like to include, those of us on the committee, those of us who in different wards, to share your testimony. With that, I know we have a few colleagues on this call. I promise to get you all out of here by 6. I know we're going to be a little bit late, but I would like to see if any of the other colleagues from the board who are not on this committee, I will go in what I think I have the order of seniority in. If they would like to comment, I would ask them to keep it brief so we can go ahead and vote. But Alderman Cohn, I see you on the line. Do you have questions, comments, anything you'd like to say?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for recognizing me and others that might not be on the committee. I appreciate that. It's been a lot to take in this afternoon, this evening. I hear that and very much respect it. I want to make note, I'm not sure if the clerk had already done so when they read the resolution, but I am a co-sponsor of the resolution, and certainly would ask for favorable consideration.
Thank you, Alderman Cohn. I'm going to move on to Alderwoman Boyd. Alderwoman Boyd, okay. Alderwoman Saunier.
Thank you. I do have to go and walk right into a neighborhood meeting right now. I just want to thank everyone who came out to testify on behalf of this. I am a co-sponsor and a proud co-sponsor of this bill. Genocide is wrong, period. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderwoman Browning. Okay, with that, I will I will entertain a motion to adopt resolution. Sorry.
Alderwoman, could committee members say a couple of words before we pass it? What order would you like to go in?
I'll go with order of seniority. So you first.
Okay. I think I'm first then. I first, quickly, I know that folks have some places they need to get to, but I do want to really thank all the members of the public who today. This was very heavy, and I want you to know that no person, no group should ever have to petition their government to recognize their humanity. And that I'm a co-sponsor on this. I want to thank Alderman Aldridge for his work on this, and that those of us in local elected leadership, we are the folks who are often closest to the people. And our role is to push our state and federal colleagues. Most often, federal legislation does not start at the federal level. It starts because people act locally. They do small pilot programs or smaller versions of whatever happens. They build that organizing capacity then in other cities and then to the state level until it gets to the federal level. And that's what we're doing today. Now, when this resolution was first introduced, there were not very many city councils that had introduced nor passed ceasefire resolutions. Now I think that there's upwards of 30, and there's a sign-on letter that's being circulated by Local Progress that has nearly 400 local elected officials signed on to it so far, supporting a ceasefire, because we are the ones that are closest to the people. We hear the cries, we hear the pain, and we have a responsibility to do policy, however symbolic it is, to promote the preservation of life. And so I just want to say that I am in support of this, that I urge my colleagues, not just in this committee, but on the Board of Aldermen, to support this, to be leaders, to listen to the folks in our community who have been saying that peace is the option. The only thing that has gotten hostages and political prisoners freed has been a ceasefire with diplomacy. And that is the route that we have to be pushing our federal government to take, because that is the only thing that is going to get the remaining hostages, the remaining political prisoners free. It is the only thing that is going to ensure that the continual ethnic cleansing and genocide of the people of Gaza does not continue. And so while I know foreign policy isn't something that the Board of Aldermen takes up every single day, we do take up issues every day about the preservation of humanity. And so I hope we look at it through this lens. And I hope that we can not only support this resolution today, but this is the beginning of building better relationships, better bridges with both Palestinian, Israeli, Jewish members of our community who have all showed up in huge support today, asking for us to support a ceasefire, asking us to work against occupation, and asking us to recognize the humanity of Palestinian people. So thank you.
Thank you, President Green. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I'll just echo the responsibility in this for us in our positions, but also our responsibility to our constituencies, to our families, to our friends, to our neighbors, to people, stakeholders, everyone that not only did we hear from today, right? Because this is not the only place that we've heard from this today. Many of us have gotten phone calls, emails, postcards, handwritten letters. Many of us, or I speak for myself, have taken the time to properly educate, because before we can take the responsibility and stance, part of a responsibility is knowing facts, to be properly educated. We know that there's no way you can legislate morals. You can't legislate how someone is going to use their heart. But it was mentioned earlier that we should use our voice and our vote for what our heart tells us, right? And so I want to again commend Alderman Aldridge for taking this time. This wasn't time that was chosen for him. This was time that, for lack of a better word, scheduling only permitted for him to do this work. And he went above and beyond and reaching out to all of us, reaching out to the community. We all have personal relationships, friends more like family in the community on both sides. So I think that I commend all of us for being not open to this conversation, but open to what's past this resolution and where it starts, the conversation that it begins, and looking forward to what we can do collectively here to move this message forward. I guess I will again repeat my solidarity in this resolution 137. Thank everyone for participating, for their participation. Even you all that didn't speak, your presence makes a difference, and it always will. We hear that just as much as we hear voices. And I also will be remiss if I didn't echo the prayers for Hadia. I'm not sure if I pronounced her name right, but for the young lady who specifically asked for prayer for Hadia, and prayers for all of the victims on both sides. Uh, on both sides of this, heartbreaking, uh, heartbreaking time we find ourselves in. So this is the role that we can play. This is the role again that we are responsible for playing and having our voice and using our voice and our position and adding it to the voices that have already been shared. And thank you again. I want to, for everyone that's answered my personal calls, who I know because I'm receiving texts from them as we speak about this, about making these kind of decisions and making sure that we are all doing what we feel, how we feel we can be, the part we can play, the role we can play, rather to be on the right side of this, as we speak and on behalf of our constituencies and for our beloved city, of St. Louis. I'm looking forward to voting my aye tonight and then moving this conversation forward, for the greater good. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. With that, I will just echo much of what has been said by my colleagues, but one, thank you all from the public, a lot from the Sixth Ward, for being here tonight and taking time to share your thoughts. With that, I will entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 137 with a due pass recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
The vote has been seconded. We will take, or Madam Clerk, roll.
Alderman Orion. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Chair Velasquez.
Aye.
President Green.
Aye.
You have 3 aye votes.
Okay, with that, it is passed and we will move it on to the full board. Thank you all again for being here. We had a couple of business things we have to before we adjourn, but committee discussions.
We
Looks
have
like
none.
Acknowledgement of any written testimony.
We had 1 written testimony.
Great, thank you. And you'll share it with us, all that good stuff.
It's in the drive.
Thank you. Any announcements?
We have none.
All right. I excuse Alderman. I move to excuse Alderman Vollmer and Alderman Narayan for necessary absences.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll entertain, or so moved.
Second. Previous row.
Great. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.